Hey everyone, you are welcome to blame this interview on Sean. That's Sean Mars. Not too long ago in a live stream, I crowdsourced some potential people to go and check out and for people who are playing in the same space. And yet again, like Matt Diggity, there was a superstar out there that I didn't know about because I apparently live under a rock. I recently reached out to Leon, who was more than willing to do an interview, and we had a great chat. We talked about the Amazon Associates program and alternatives. We talked about potential exits for his website and some of the things to think about on either side as we get it ready. And the info product, I think his very first info product that he's getting ready to release. There will be links in the description to everything we talk about. I think there should be. I don't know. If there aren't, let me know. All right, everybody, here we go. Thank you so much for being here. It's really great to see you and actually get to talk to you because I have been binge watching your content for about a month now since I came across your channel. So please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you're about.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Leon Angus, and I'm a 28-year-old part-time entrepreneur and part-time train driver by trade in the UK. And well, you probably already realized from my accent. And I run several online websites. I would say I'm well experienced with SEO and niche website affiliate marketing. I also do some PPC stuff on my channel from time to time as well.
How long have you been sort of in the make money online space?
I would say for about 2 years now. So really going hard with it in the last 12 months, but prior to that, about 24 months. So not well seasoned, but you know.
Yeah. So what caused you to say, I really want to devote a lot of time and attention to this? I mean, you already have what sounds like a full-time job.
Yeah, so I don't work at the job full time. So I was prior to my online marketing journey full time. But as I started obviously to grow with online business, then decided to go part time where I work only 2 days a week now. So what kind of drove me to doing this was purely because I'm a strong believer in, doing something that kind of has the potential to give you the lifestyle that you're looking for. So for me, I had to really sit down and think about what I wanted out of life. And if my current kind of, work environment warranted that kind of lifestyle, and it didn't. So that's the reason. It's like a typical thing that I think a lot of people go through, and the moment I realized that was the moment I started venturing in and trying to do something bigger.
So what was your education before jumping into the online space? Because I don't honestly know what sort of background and training you need to drive train. And when you say train in the UK, I assume the kind that pulls people around. Is that right? Or
Yeah,
are we
that's
talking
right.
freight?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about that pulls people around. So my previous experience, I started off, I done motorsport engineering. That's what I studied. So I was an engineer. That's what I used to do. And I was in that sector for maybe about 3 years, and decided that it wasn't something that I would want to do as a profession. So I decided to just keep it as like a hobby kind of thing, because I used to love fast cars. I used to drive a lot of fast cars when I was younger. I'm not old yet, but I always say when I'm younger, and people call me out on that. But I'm 28 now, so I'm a bit older than I was back then. I'm talking like 18s and stuff. And basically, I used to love cars and engines, and I still do up to now. I'm a very handyman kind of thing, but I didn't want to do it as a profession. Like I needed to go and actually try it out to find that out, So all my life, that was my focus, and then it suddenly wasn't. So the first thing, what happened for me, how this whole thing started, was it was a friend of mine, their dad, who first of all, like, kind of was quite a well-off person, but I never ever knew what they did. And all I knew is that he kind of retired at 34 from his job and all of this kind of thing. So I didn't know what he did. Yeah. And it was him who, like, one day came in and said to me, like, you seem quite sharp. Do you want to try something out, making some extra money? And I was like, hell yeah, of course I do, and whatever. And that he started teaching me about what he does. Yeah. And this is, you never really get people randomly doing this kind of thing. It's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I hadn't read any books back then, so I didn't have any clue. But he basically used to be a stock trader. And that's what he used to do. And he showed me like numbers and stuff that just blew my mind, So I was thinking, like, how do people kind of acquire that kind of wealth and whatever else. And he was just showing me like a certain small percentage of, you know, the things he used to do. But anyway, that led me on to like, it opened my eyes, you know, and every time I kept like persistently going back all the time to you know, try and exercise that option as much as possible. And anyway, it got me into reading. So he got me into reading. And then when I started reading, I started realizing, because I don't come from like, you know, an affluent background or anything like that. So like, you know, by no means were we completely poor or anything like that, but we wasn't like, you know, well off.
Sure.
And yeah, basically it led me into reading up like loads of different books. And I started reading like entrepreneurial books and all different ones, from Richard Branson and, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon, all these different things. And that was it. Like, I just knew that I was 100% not going to be doing something like, you know, just working for the rest of my life. So it all kind of it happened like in steps, you know. So I didn't actually take action at that point. I was just, it was all theory, but it changed my mindset. So my outlook on things and what was possible was completely different, you know. But I've always had I don't know if you see my story on the channel.
Not yet. I haven't seen it.
I've always had big dreams. I used to be like a bit naughty when I was younger, you know. So I wasn't a good like young boy, you know. So I used to be involved in quite a few things. So I always had big dreams, but maybe not in the right ways, you know. So now I'm channeling it into something that's straight and narrow.
That's funny. Yeah. Naughty. That's so, you know, a lot of us who have gotten started in this space have what I would call false starts. Like, we try things and we try things and they don't work. How many false starts did you have before you hit on something that you would call a success?
Okay, a few. So basically, when I started, the first thing that I started with a while ago, so leading off that story, I basically went into trying out stock trading because that's what I was being taught. And I failed at that for like a good year. Like, so I would make like little blips of money and then lose money. But over the course of the whole year, I was in negative. So, but I was learning a lot, you know. So I realized that that wasn't for me again. So I'm a strong believer now that, like, you know, you have to try different things to figure out what you don't like, you know, because there's a bunch of things everyone says, I don't know what to do. But the best thing to do is get started and then figure out what you don't like. And then that way you can kind of eliminate the things that are not good and then find the thing that is, you know. So that's how I approach everything now. So basically that led me on to like a couple of years after that. I was still working my job full time at this point. So I'm still like, you know, focused on work and whatever else. And I think because at that point it was so distant from me, like of making my own cash, you know, with online, I was thinking, I kind of thought, all right, like, let me just focus on work and try and progress there. And then I'll, you know, do whatever else outside in due time or whatever. So I focused on work for a while anyway. And then that led me on to, like, about a year later, I opened a shop with my sister. So I used to have a physical shop for about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. We used to sell bagels. You know, so it's so odd, like the journey of anyone.
I guess I'm just doing the math though, because you're 28 now. And so you said you've been in the online space for 2 years. So this was before.
Yeah.
So you were much younger is what you're saying.
Yeah,
when you were selling the bagels.
Yeah. I was young. Yeah. So that was my first taste because, you know, I invested a bit of money into that shop and whatever else. So that was my first taste of doing something like a complete business properly, you know, because before, obviously, the trading is like just starting up an account and all that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, we ran that. And that basically, although we wasn't highly profitable, the revenue was what opened my eyes because of the revenue we was driving. So I was like, okay, I know we can turn money over. I know I can turn money over. So if I could just have reduced our outgoings, you know, if I was in a different kind of space, then driving this kind of revenue would be quite a substantial profit. So that's what opened my eyes to then going, okay, because at that point, I put quite a bit of money and lost quite a bit of money in that. And even with my sister, I knew that, you know, I said to her, if we don't win at this, we're going to learn, you know, I knew that. I knew that it was either those two things. I said, so there's no loss. There's no way of us losing at this, you know? So, and it truly did help me, because when I then decided to go online, I started looking at different avenues. So the first person I came across was Ty Lopez, like
Yeah.
at the time, because everyone was seeing Ty Lopez. And, you know, at the time I was trying to follow his business advice almost, like I was like thinking, all right, social media marketing and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't go into it, luckily. But what it was is like, I started kind of reading, he led me on to reading more books. So I was reading little bits and whatever, but he led me on to reading like heavily, you know, and also like I bought his little 67 steps course. So that was all about changing your mindset. And that was really helpful, honestly. So yeah, basically after that, I started looking at, you get faced when you come to the online space. It's like you get presented with these options, and everyone does. It's like drop shipping, Amazon FBA, affiliate marketing, and then you just got to pick one, you know? So I didn't have that kind of analysis paralysis that people have, where they're like, I don't know whether to do drop shipping or this one. I just kind of got drawn to affiliate marketing. I was like, what? You can like make all this money and you only have to front this and whatever. And I was thinking, all right, well, I could start these businesses over and over again, like if it failed, you know, with low overhead. So that was just, I don't know, maybe because I had that previous experience of just starting a business, I kind of understood the structure of the different models. So I was quickly able to kind of dissect them and say, all right, that's the one I want to go down, you know,
So
and
what
I've
did you
never looked back.
start? So what did you start then? Like, what was the thing that jumped you into affiliate marketing?
Yeah, so like how I started specifically with affiliate marketing is the first thing I did was I started watching, you know, I don't know, you wouldn't even know who he is, Tanner J. Fox. You probably are not going to know who he is.
Tanner
There-
J. Fox, like
yeah,
Michael J. Fox?
nah, yeah. There's Tanner Fox, yeah, who's like a YouTuber, and then there's Tanner J. Fox. He's a YouTuber as well, but he's a much smaller one. He's an entrepreneur, but he's a few years younger than me. He's probably like 24, 25. But basically, he was like doing Amazon FBA, but he was making like $10,000 a month through affiliate marketing. So I was thinking, all right, you know, this guy's probably the guy to follow and whatever else at the time. So I bought his course, you know, and that's what got me into the first steps of like learning affiliate marketing. But the methods that they were teaching were I don't know, back then people were doing these things, but it was like building up Facebook pages and things like that, like, you know, just things you would never do now. And that's what basically I started doing, like, you know, just emulating what they were teaching. And I never really had any success with it, you know, like, so they were teaching things like that, and it was just like some dead methods. It wasn't to do with SEO or anything like that. Then the other thing it was like was YouTube. They were trying to, obviously YouTube is profitable, but do you really need to buy a course to teach you how to do YouTube with affiliate marketing? I don't really think so, you know. So, but because I bought it for like $500 or however how much it was, you know, back then. But then that led me on to, who did I follow after that? Tanner J. Fox and Ryan Hildreth. Then I started learning about CPA marketing. That was from a guy, Anthony Alfonso. So I started following him and I started trying out CPA marketing. I was getting a little bit of success with that, with like max bounty offers. And then I started learning about how to do it with Instagram accounts. So I was really trying to use these social media platforms opposed to like search engines. And I built up these massive Instagram accounts though. They were like, I had like 50,000 followers or something like that on like, you know, a few of them. I had like 4 accounts and me and my friends were running them and everything. And, you know, like I was basically collecting leads and then remarketing to them.
Were you able to make money with those accounts?
Yeah, I was making little bits and bobs here and there, like, and that was it. You know, it was never really anything substantial, you know. And then I went through a series of just learning from different people. Alex Becker was another person, because back then he was like still kind of in it when it was like a good 2 years ago. I started watching Alex Becker maybe 3 years ago before I even started online. Like, so I was just watching his stuff. And he was the guy who taught me how to build websites. So I learned how to build a website, you know. So by the time all of this came together at this point, I kind of like had an idea of how to do it, you know. So when it came to building a website, like, because when I decided to build a website, and I went ahead with like, I'm going to build this affiliate site and whatever. I already knew kind of how to do it, but I think it was just because I've watched so much stuff at that point. Like I was just watching so much YouTube and I had it all in my head, like how to set up WordPress and all of that kind of thing. I still had to go back to tutorials, but I had a general idea. And that's what led me into like just, the first thing I had success with was the niche website mainly that I built, the one that I still do reviews on now, like, reports, income reports on, which was in the dog space. So that was the site I built. And yeah, that was
It's
it.
monetized primarily with Amazon affiliate?
Yeah, so like I monetize it with Amazon affiliate and ClickBank and Ezoic ads as well.
What sort of impact are you seeing in your business now as a result of the Amazon? I don't even know what to call it. Like you could call it catastrophe. You could call it like, what is it that you are seeing or anticipating happening in your business, and how will you change?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the moment, I've seen, like, to be honest, it's been a little bit odd for me because what's happening is the site's on a growth cycle. So I'm growing in traffic and I'm getting a lot more traffic, a lot more search traffic, because obviously a lot more people are, on the internet making these searches. So whilst that's on the incline, obviously I've taken the cut from Amazon, but I'm still seeing a kind of growth at the moment, at present, in income because the site overall is actually gaining more traffic, so it's almost balancing it out and compensating for the loss of revenue. So that's what I'm doing. But at the moment, like what I am rolling out and testing is essentially swapping out Amazon products for either the direct vendor or like going to the vendor on Amazon and seeing if they have an affiliate program, like going to their official website, or just using third-party vendors and trying to find alternatives. But predominantly for that site, because I've got so much informational content, I'm also looking to focus on trying to grow that more traffic to actually bring in more from ads and compensate for the loss of revenue on the affiliate side.
I've heard a lot of discussion with folks who are going back and forth about Amazon, and a lot of
Mm,
folks are doing what you're talking about, which is getting away from Amazon or going direct to the
mm,
supplier. But the concern is that
mm.
Amazon just converts so well, and that
Exactly.
it will be, even if you are taking a huge cut in commissions
Mm,
with Amazon, you're still more likely to make money with Amazon
mm,
because people trust
mm.
Amazon. They may not even
Agree.
realize that they're buying this dog collar from
Yep.
the company because they perceive
Mm,
they're buying it from Amazon, even though you're buying it technically
yep.
from this other company.
Of course.
So what do you think about the conversion
Mm.
likelihood, and how will that impact your decision to make these changes?
Yeah. So for me, because I already like I do like all different kind of styles and methods with affiliate marketing. So I do, like I said, a bit of pay per click and things like that. So whenever I'm doing that, it's directly with third party, direct like vendors, So that the general approach to that is a lot different. I mean, for Amazon, it's a lot easier for people to convert, especially for beginners, because you don't have to have the best kind of website to do so. Whereas if you're trying to convert someone like directly with a vendor, then your content has to be of high quality, and your copywriting skills have to be of a certain level. And on top of it, the actual page that you send them to is very important, because obviously that has to then do the selling for you. So um, the way I would approach this, and the way I am approaching it, is by basically making sure that whatever pages I send them to, the landing pages, are pages that look trustworthy and have the right kind of information on there to convince or convey them to making a purchase. Also, um, making sure that my content is on point, because prior to sending them there, maybe even giving them, heads up that it's directly from the company. And there are different kind of conversion rate optimization techniques that you can use to encourage people to make the purchase when they go there. So, for example, there's certain different methods you can use. There's things like, scarcity tactics, for example, by saying, that there are other websites that have, not to bad mouth any, but you say like, this is the trustworthy, legitimate link, or here's a link that I found. Or if you get the option, you can go out and reach out to vendors, try get a potential discount, and then they have to use your link because it's incentivized, so they won't get the discount unless they actually go through. So there's different techniques that you can use to compensate for that, because ultimately, I think more of the experienced marketers don't fear these kind of things, because this is the way that marketing's done, aside from Amazon. So I find that Amazon is great. I still would recommend it for a beginner, because I think the most important part for anyone when you're starting out is building up your mindset, your confidence. And if you're getting consistent sales, then you believe you can do anything else. Because if you think if you can do that thing, then you can probably do a lot more. So I would still recommend that people start with it and actually get some small success, which will then lead them into the right belief systems to then go out and promote something, where they're selling something for way more and making more money.
So what you've shared a lot about are some really awesome sort of tips is the wrong word, but you have a ton of experience in your brain. And I guess that's a great segue. You have an info product coming out, and I would like to know, a bit about that product. And are these types of tips or this type of information stuff that we will find in your info product? Like, why don't you introduce that to us and tell us about it and what we could expect to see in it?
Okay, yeah. So, so as of now, I'm releasing an ebook, which is the Niche Affiliates Amazon Handbook. I decided to call it a handbook purely because of my previous experience, which is not that much of an attractive title. But I used to use manuals, like in engineering. So I think, what? Something when it's unpredictable in regards to the results is called like a guide or something like that. It's open-ended and ambiguous. But I thought, a manual is guaranteed to get this result if you follow those steps. So that's where the kind of angle came from. But it's not that kind of pretty to put on the page. Like a manual is something usually you chuck away in the bin, so like I just buy Leon's ebook and throw it in the bin. No, but but so I just thought, okay, this is going to be like a complete manual. Like if you follow these steps, you're going to get these results. So I actually cover everything inside of the book, from how to go about Amazon's changes. So I give 6 different methods inside of the book, of general approaches with information and tips on the approach that you need to take. So a few things that I was mentioning earlier about, analyzing the landing pages and things like that, that's all in there. It goes through like from being a complete beginner, if you have no experience with Amazon Associates, to having some experience. And, so if you're intermediate, so I wouldn't say it's at an advanced level, because I'm bringing out later info products for that. But at the moment, it's purely basically breaking down how to set up the site, different ways of monetizing, not just with Amazon Associates. And also it's breaking down like all of my techniques and strategies, like of how to set up your pages, how to analyze competition, keyword research, the general approach to building a niche website, to be honest. So absolutely everything. There's even backlinking in there as well. So I'll take you through my backlink process, everything you can think of with building a niche website.
So we've talked a little bit about your background, and we know generally now sort of the origin story and the arc of your experience. What about you, as far as your experience or earnings? Because I really hate people trotting out, the how much do you make a month and how successful are you? And, these like screenshots that we never know are really trustworthy or otherwise. Why should people trust you and your method? Like what experience or what wins or what sort of information can you share? And, it could be income or it could be traffic or whatever. Like what sort of wins means that people should follow you? And why should they buy this product?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, first of all, I think one of the key differences, first of all, in regards to income wise, I make over $3,000 a month solid with affiliate marketing. So I've got some experience. But in regards to like actually listening to me, one of the things with me is that I over deliver. So everyone knows that, like I've got a ton of information and I just kind of spit it out like a machine gun, so it's like relentless information. And I think that's because I'm very analytical. Like I analyze things to its bare principles. So the difference with what you'll get with my information and the things that I'll share is I will fact check it and test it relentlessly before I share it with you. And I'll drill it down to the complete basic principles and then explain it so you understand it from the bottom up, So I think that's the difference with me and how I build up so much kind of experience, how I've built this level of experience in just the space of like a year, going with niche websites. Also, I mean, my main site just crossed 23,000 visits a month. So it's not huge by any means, but, it's still got some level of experience there. And I've also run like, ClickBank products. I've got a ClickBank site and things like that. So that, site makes a good, like $700,000 a month as well with that.
700,000? Did you say
No,
700?
700 to $1,000 a month.
700 to 1,000. I thought you said
Yeah.
700,000.
I'm saying $700,000 a month roughly, depending, give or take. And basically I'm always testing. So I'm brutally honest with what I kind of share, like with the information. Like I said, because at the beginning prior to this, which is why I said I wouldn't put this at an advanced level. It's more for beginners to intermediate level, purely because that's where I'm at as well. I would still class myself as like intermediate level because there's still a lot more for me to learn.
Me too. Totally.
Yeah.
I'm pointing to myself because that is
Yeah.
exactly where I am.
Yeah. So there's still a lot for me to learn. I think mostly why people enjoy my channel is because I'm very transparent. So I don't hide behind the closet, in the closet, sorry. I keep everything like very open. I share, my wins, my losses. There's months where you can go and check my income reports and I make way less, so, and I share that with everyone. So I think they like it because I'm documenting it and I'm more of a relatable character than someone they look at and think, oh, I want to be like that person. It's just sort of.
Well, speaking of YouTube, then you have a YouTube channel that has over 2,000 subscribers and it's growing. It seems like day on day, week on week, month on month. Why choose an ebook? I mean, if you're already committing content on video, I mean, why do a book? Why do a book?
That's a big question as well, because I've got a friend who is also an entrepreneur and she was basically saying the same thing. She was like, you could basically create a course right now. The reason why I didn't, and maybe I should have, because it would have been easier to consume. The reason why I'd never created a course is purely because I'm very much against people who create these big courses and charge gigantic amounts. I can't speak. You wouldn't think I'm a YouTuber, in an interview, I'm just like, so like stumbling. But anyway, so they charge these ginormous amounts and things like that. And I don't agree with it because the thing is, like, a lot of them are not practicing what they preach, So a lot of people, they make like money, just say on YouTube, they're like a YouTuber, but then they teach you about a craft where they only make like, 20% of their income with that. So for me, I don't want to go out and charge this massive amount for a course. The only kind of thing I could do potentially to turn everything on its head is to basically maybe create a course and charge way less for it, because down the road, it's not to say I'm not going to charge more, but I think that needs to level out with your level of experience and expertise. So for me, I thought, you know what, like really and truly, I've spent like a good $5,000-6,000 on courses, but I was thinking, what if I just create an ebook? And ebooks are very specific. That's what I find. So you see, like for a course, I would want to create a course if I was creating like, I mean, I could create it just on Amazon Associates, but usually if I create a course, I want to do something what covers affiliate marketing as a whole. So I want it to be like, I don't know, I look at everything from a mechanic's perspective. So a mechanic has a set of different tools and skills, but he's able to identify what tool he needs to use for that particular job. So if you're going to change your car wheel, you're not going to use like a screwdriver. You're going to use a wrench or a ratchet or something like that. So you know what tool needs to be used for that job. Yeah. So when I create a course, I want it to be like that, where basically I can teach methods that you can go, okay, this affiliate product is on max bounty. I think this is going to best suit pay-per-click ads. I'm not going to do Facebook because maybe it's a health offer and might get shut down. So I'm going to use PPC for this, and based on the ROI on it and the average EPC, I'm going to use this traffic source. Or I think this one will go with SEO, or blah blah blah. So they can identify, okay, this is the traffic source and the method that I'm going to use for this particular product. So that's the way I kind of take an approach to affiliate marketing. Now, coming back to the ebook, it's not over expensive. It's coming out for $37, so anyone can buy that. And I actually went out. I didn't just go and create this ebook. I thought, you know what? Let me go and actually see what's out there at the moment. So I went on Amazon, went on different places, and started buying Amazon affiliate books. And to be honest, I was quite surprised what I found, because there was nothing that was nowhere near the level of information that I'm giving in mine. So I'm absolutely covering like everything in regards to Amazon associates, and at a high level. So although I'm downplaying my kind of expertise,
Sure,
I'm very knowledgeable for this stage. Like I know that I research and I test a lot. So because of that, I've got a very high level of knowledge. So although I'm not getting like crazy off this planet results, I think that that's only time pending before I do get to those stages, because of my level of knowledge.
yeah. I think if you show that you're capable of making $500 a month in affiliate marketing, you have the skills and abilities to take that and take it on. It's like getting the first $2, $3, $5, like you proof of concept, and then moving on. And like you said, it's just an investment of time.
Because I've even got methods in there, of scaling it and things like that. Like once you kind of, what I'm in the process of doing now. So like outsourcing, I've got templates in there. Like, for example, I don't just explain, as I said, I over deliver. So I don't just give information on this is how you write content. I actually give you the templates that I use, that I send out to writers. Then I go through how to actually check the information that's been sent back to you from the writer to make sure. I go through search intent. These are things that you don't hear inside of ebooks, essentially. So I go through search intent, understanding search intent. I take you through 5 different methods of keyword research, going through using tools, not using tools, manual checks, competitor research, reverse engineering competitors based on the level of authority, analyzing authority, absolutely everything. I think I'm downplaying it with there's too much to actually spit out in what the book, like in how much it has, but it just has a ton of information.
That's cool. Well, I'm excited to hear about it as it comes out. I'm going to switch gears briefly and wanted to talk about growing YouTube. And what we talked about briefly before we got started was the fact that you are a self-proclaimed introvert. And I wanted to know, like, how does someone who is an introvert become successful on YouTube? Like, how are you able to make that switch and go on camera and be comfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a transition, I would say, because what it is, my understanding of things is that we're limited to anything by our level of how comfortable we are with something. So the more uncomfortable that we delve into something, the more area and room that we grow, like the more room we move into of growth. So I believe, like, in order for me to kind of get better at anything, I need to feel uncomfortable. So that was the biggest thing for me, because I thought, I'm not very comfortable with speaking in public or speaking on stage, or, being in front of people, like large amounts of people, or doing something out of the ordinary. So to actually battle that, I decided to tackle it, because I think a lot of the time with like mindset and things like that, we're taught like to kind of look at all the positive things and focus on the positive, but then you forget about the negative, and that always hinders and drags you back down, so you usually need to kind of face the music and tackle that thing, because that's the area of where you're going to grow, and for me in this current, at this stage in my life, I see that whenever I feel that kind of pain in my life, that's usually an area I need to focus on, you know, for growth. And that was my general approach. So it wasn't that I kind of, you know, found some hidden method around it. I just tackled it head on, and I went through the motions of, you know, feeling crap after recording a video every other week, you know, and getting headaches and feeling stressed out. But I never gave up. So I just kept practicing, because I think this is the biggest thing, especially in online marketing, that's not preached, is that practice makes perfect. I think because people get these extravagant results, like, oh, 2 weeks, he's making $10,000 a month and all that. It's all this stuff was portrayed like on all the ads and things. And I think that's why people watch your channel and like people like me, because it's like, oh, back to reality. This is the way it really is, you know? So because of that, that you know, I took that approach anyway. That was it. That's my understanding of how I tackle anything. I just think, you know what, you got to get better, and that was it.
What is one thing, or maybe other things, several things, but there are, for example, I'm going to give Yoast as the example. Like when you're in the beginning, people say you must use Yoast, but as you spend more time in the space, you find that a lot of experienced people are like, don't touch Yoast. That's a bad idea. Is there one thing, like a strategy or a method or a tool or a plugin that people are raving about that you're like, I'm not going there?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a few. I don't really use a lot of plugins on my sites altogether, purely because they hurt your speed, you know, and obviously this is a very important ranking factor. So I personally don't use Yoast on all of my sites. One plugin that I don't go ranting and raving about, that I do think is very good, but also does more harm than good to a certain degree, is Jetpack. You know, so I think that's a very good plugin, but it also slows your site down quite dramatically, and it gives you all these bells and whistles, you know, so I think you shouldn't get caught up in that. I personally would just keep everything to a minimum and focus on the most important thing, which is, you know, your keyword research, good content, and if you are into it, backlinks. You know, those are the three things. If you got those three things right, I would say those three things make up 80% of your success. If you can get those things right, honestly, everything else just like makes up only the small stuff, you know? So, and those are the most simple things. Because I think what happens is people get caught up with advanced tactics. Like, so they look at people who are well seasoned. Like I saw that you had Matt Diggity on here. So he's like very good. I just bought his course not long ago as well, you know, which is brilliant. But
yeah, I have it too. I'm really loving it, but it's so dense. Like I'm still literally in like the first 10% of it.
Because I'm like very analytical. This is exactly what I was looking for. But you know what it is, and he's also like, you know, previous into engineering, so he takes that general approach to things. Yeah,
He just thinks like you do, right? Like very analytical, like step by step.
Yeah, it's a mechanics perspective, because you know what it is. Like I said to one of my friends, I used to think it was a bad thing, and the reason why is because it can be bad in some scenarios, because I will overanalyze things. I used to be like really bad with overanalyzing,
to the point where you're critical of people, right? Like people think that you're being sort of negative and mean because you're always breaking things down.
Yeah, I would break everything down, you know, and try to find, I still do it up to now, to be honest, in my personal life. But so like I thought it was a bad trait, you know, so not that I would speak openly about that, but I would think behind closed doors that that's something that I've got as a negative of me. You know, if someone says, oh, what's something like a flaw of you, I'd probably say, you know, I tend to overanalyze things, you know, that's how I'll drop it. But now I use it, I think it's like, you know, it's a gift and a curse, but I think it's a very big gift, because I always try to understand things, and I understand it so deeply and inherently that I'm able to kind of understand it and know it, you know, so I can rinse and repeat it again and again, and I know exactly how to do something and get the same result. So I think it can be quite beneficial in that case, you know. But yeah, so that's my general approach to things with online marketing. I'm always testing everything.
Have you had any an exit yet in your business, like as far as selling a website or selling a business or flipping something?
I haven't sold anything yet. I haven't sold anything. The only thing that I've done previously is let things die out. I've done that, but I haven't actually sold anything. Yeah. So I am actually planning on selling this first site that I started at the end of the year, purely for the fact of I'd like to share that experience with my subscribers as well. So I'll be sharing that on the channel so people can actually see that and yeah, go through the process with me.
Do you have plans for where you want to list it? Like, will you sell it directly through your YouTube, or will you go to a broker?
I'll go to a broker most probably. So like from my level of experience and understanding, I'd probably head down to like Empire Flippers and attempt to sell it there.
Will the site be big enough, do you think, then to attract buyers through that?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, over the course of this year, at the moment, as I said, the site's got about 23,000 visits a month. So what I plan on doing is getting it up to at least like 50 to 100,000 visits a month, which I believe I can do. There's still a lot of space for improvement.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of revenue do you think that you'll be looking at by the time you're ready to sell it, mixed across all of the various channels?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is definitely to get the site to $3,000 a month. If I can get it there, then, depending on give or take, I don't know if it will be, I mean, moving forward, the plan is not really to be predominantly monetizing with Amazon. So I'd need to look in more on what the kind of multiples are on using, third-party vendors or direct with vendors opposed to Amazon sites. So the multiples might have been a lot higher on Amazon sites because it's more reliable, but who knows? So I have to look into that and see what kind of average multiple I can expect for a site like that. But I do know one thing is that diversifying income revenue and diversifying traffic sources is going to increase the multiple that you get.
That is potentially, and I do agree potentially. And, frankly, if you can get that site of yours across multiple channels up to
Mm,
$3,000 a month, I mean, that could be a six-figure exit
mm,
for you. One of the things that I have seen, though, and I worry about for folks that are
mm,
thinking about selling is having too many channels,
mm,
because you have the site where the buyer has to be experienced in SEO and
mm,
Pinterest and Instagram and
mm.
YouTube and all these things, and that may narrow your pool. And maybe the thought of, there being an opportunity, like low hanging fruit for the buyer
Yeah.
who sees the site and they see the value in it. But if you've already hit all the channels, and
Hmm.
if they don't have that experience, I wonder, though, if that would make it harder for you to find a buyer. And I know this from my personal experience
Yeah, of
going and looking at a
course.
site, because I don't know how to do these things. Am I going to
Yeah.
have to hire somebody to do
Yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah. Of course, because predominantly what I found is from through my research, personally, what I found from Empire Flippers and what they've put out and shared publicly is that a lot of the buyers are usually either, with an agency or serial entrepreneurs that consistently buy these investments for cash flow or to potentially flip them, improve them and flip them later down the road. My kind of outlook on it and my concern is definitely through diversifying the traffic sources, and predominantly comes down to what you said. And that's because if you saturated the options, then there's no potential room for improvement for a buyer, because someone doesn't just buy it to just make the same money what you're disclosing. There has to be some gain, so I think there's a fine line with that. But the more that I actually look into it and test and improve my site, the more I'll learn. So I think the general approach is going to be for me at SEO at the moment. But then the only second traffic sources I would consider would be YouTube or Pinterest. And in the scenario, I'm not really going to get on camera myself. And then alternatively, it would only be getting videos made and stuff. But I think the ROI would be in Pinterest, so that's what I would use, especially for the niche that it's in, so
For
that's what
me,
I would definitely go down.
no, for me though, I think, like, looking forward to an exit, and I think this is something that not a lot of people think about in our space. If they say, okay, I eventually want to sell, is they don't necessarily think about the buyer profile, like who their avatar would be for
Mm,
someone who would take over their site. Because
mm,
if you really thought about it, you say, okay, who is my
mm,
ideal buyer? Is this someone
mm,
with a lot of experience, or someone who's looking at investing in a really stable, solid a site that they can grow, and scale,
Mm,
to take to a
mm,
new place. So am I aiming at an agency, and an
mm,
agency will already have a Pinterest VA and an
mm,
Instagram VA, and, they won't need my SOPs and all these things
mm,
because they'll already know. But I don't
mm,
think a lot of people are thinking about that. And I can tell that
mm,
you have, because
mm,
definitely you say, okay, I'm definitely aiming at an agency.
mm.
So you're looking at streamlining things as much as possible. But, if you, like you said, if you have too much of this stuff already thought out, are they going to
Yeah,
see the opportunity,
yeah,
like
it's
buying
true.
it and for a flip, because
Yeah.
maybe it's not flippable for
Mm.
them.
Of course, because there's a fine line with things like domains as well, because that can limit an entire website. There are ways around it, but I mean, for a buyer, they don't want to do the ways around. They just want something that's quite straightforward. So, like people who use exact match domains, like the same as the keyword they're trying to rank the whole entire site around. These kind of sites are very hard to sell because there's no room for expansion outside of that niche. So I tend to go for either a partial match or branded is predominantly the one I'd go for because it's open-ended. They can make it into anything they want. But this is also something that I go through inside of the book, and it's not specifically for selling a site because I haven't done that, so I won't share that inside of the book. But what I do teach inside of the book is starting with the end in mind. That's one of the things that I actually teach, because people's general approach is affected of how you would start a site based on how it's going to end, and that's in regards to things like monetization, and niche selection, so because if you basically just say, for example, one of the examples I give is like, if you were to go into, say, for example, a niche that was based around an interest or something like that. So just say, I'm a train driver. There's people who spot trains, train spotters. Well, that kind of niche is not going to be heavy on affiliate. You just know that immediately, so you need to think of the end goal. Okay, what's the end here? Like, how is this site going to get monetized? Even though you're just starting, you need to think of monetization there. All right, well, best suited for this is going to be, ads. It's going to be a very heavy informational site and ads. And if I take it one step further, I could potentially maybe sell an info product on this, but that's like pushing it. So you might build up a list and have an info product, but that your main focus is going to be advertising. You're not really going to be promoting affiliate. So that's going to change your whole way that you actually build that site, because your keyword research is going to be different, your methods are going to be different, and your general approach to everything is going to be completely different. So I think it's very important, understanding what exit strategy you're going to have. Personally, like I said, I'm going to most definitely sell this site anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my goal. Because I also go through that as well, basically of whether you want to build up a portfolio of websites and have cash flow, or if you would like to sell. And I go through potentially selling one and keeping some for cash flow, or vice versa, so on and so forth. It's all inside of the ebook as well.
So where do you think the demand then, just from having done your analysis, where is the demand strongest for people for wanting to buy a site? Like what range of total sale amount do you think the demand right now or in the next 12 months is the highest?
Mm. Okay, are you saying like for how much revenue the site's driving, or for how much they're willing to spend entirely on a website and as an investment?
Either, because I think they are connected, but
Mm.
because in general, how much a site makes per month is going to determine what it is that the ultimate sale price would be. But I mean,
Mm.
what range do you think is the most competitive? Like if you put the site on the market, would it be likely to get snapped up like that?
Mm. Well, I also follow that a lot of my reviews are from Spencer Hawes Motion Invest.
Hmm.
So I see that a lot of sites are being snatched that are making like under $2,000 a month. So I'm seeing a lot of them being sold. And the reason why I believe that that's happening is because even just me going through with my level of experience on those sites, there's so many things that they haven't done right, but they're still making like, $1,000 a month or something. So there's a few tweaks you could go in and literally turn some cogs and immediately like increase revenue by like 50%, 100%, you know? So I think those are the reasons specifically for why those are being snapped up. So if I could say that I've seen any kind of demand in a specific area, it's with those sites specifically. And I think that's because there's like a whole plethora of opportunity around those sites, you know, whereas when someone's making a big buying decision, there's a lot more on the table to lose, you know. So I think definitely if you're a small guy, you're always going to sell your site super quick, you know. And a lot of the time it's because, even just say for example how you brought Matt on here, he would look at my site most definitely and just spot a few things that I could probably change and be like, yep, I could turn that around in like 6 months, you know, and be making it a very big site. So I think there's people like that on the other end, you know. So I think that when they see those small sites, it's a great opportunity, especially if someone like him, like who's well seasoned, has experience in that niche. Sometimes they've got experience, or they know someone or something, and they know about that niche. So they say, I've seen sites in that same niche doing these kind of numbers, and when you know that, you know, you can replicate that success again. So I think most definitely for sites like under the $150,000 range.
So, do you think then that knowing that the demand is there at the lower end, that a lot of us, and I put myself in that category,
Hmm.
who would like to make a six-figure exit with our websites before we move on? I mean, do you think we're
Hmm.
waiting too long?
Um, I think that's something that's subjective, and that's kind of weird to tailor that to that. But I think that it's an individual decision for each person, because everyone's site and everyone's niche is completely different, you know. So everyone's efforts are different. Um, it's a fine line, because I mean, Amazon making those changes is something that's going to spark that question in a lot of people, because a lot of people are going to say now, oh, well, maybe I should have just sold it and then started fresh with something that's just not Amazon, you know? So that's the big question that I think a lot of people are going to have. But that doesn't mean that you've made the wrong decision. I think that for every negative, there's a positive you can draw out. So as long as you're looking for the opportunity. So with this, there's going to be opportunity, because people are going to look at other ways of monetizing, and that's going to take your level of marketing up a level. So I don't think that anyone is waiting too long. I just do think that you need to kind of have a good gauge on your ROI, because if you're basically putting in a lot of effort and you're not really seeing much success or much growth, then you've probably kind of maxed out at your level of knowledge and experience, you know. So it might take someone else, maybe someone just fresh, you know, to come in and actually take that up to the next level. So sometimes it's better to take that capital and then put the capital into use with the new site, because you have to think, if you've got that level of experience now, you can get there again, most definitely. So, you know, and you'd get there a lot faster and a lot easier. So you'd be able to quickly outsource, because if I was, you know, to sell my first site, I'm going to outsource like very heavily going into the next project. And that's how you're going to be able to, you know, move at scale.
You know, I will just say I have long thought that the range of sites priced between 20,000 and 80,000 is one of
Mm,
the most competitive and sort of underserved areas as far
mm,
as people creating stuff.
mm,
They have no problem jumping out, you know, under 20,000 because, oh, you
mm,
know, maybe I made mistakes or whatever.
mm,
There's a lot of buyers there. And then, you know, people are looking and say, okay, if I can make $1,000 a month, well, I can make
mm,
2,000 and I can make
mm,
3,000. And then they're holding to try to sell it
mm,
as for as much as possible. But that
mm,
range, the $20,000 to $80,000 range, where most people are
mm,
not, I won't say most people, but for people who are likely to have cash that they don't have to finance, you know, they're not
mm,
a fund or whatever. I mean, that's an area
mm,
that there's just not enough supply there.
mm,
Like talking with
mm,
Matt Diggity, he's like, yeah, I'll throw down $50,000 $60,000 on a
mm,
site that I can just
mm,
give to my team. But I don't know
mm.
that he would say the same for $120,000 site.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, most definitely.
So I guess it's sort of like the throwing it out there
Mm,
for folks who are thinking about selling. It just
mm,
seems like that is this like this sweet spot range where you're
mm.
going to catch people of some experience and some money, but most people are waiting, like
Yeah.
you are, like I am. I'm one of
Most
those.
definitely, yeah, it's true. No, I can see the logic in that, most definitely. And as I would say, like quite openly, is that someone like Matt is a lot more experienced, you know. So
Oh yeah.
he's gonna have
He has a
uh,
team, like a whole
yeah,
team.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, because I follow his stuff. So, you know, they're regularly buying sites, you know, so they're well in that area. And most definitely, I would follow his information because he's one of the few real people and genuine people that are here on the internet. So, yeah, if he says that, then I would most definitely, you know, believe that would
Well,
be the
he
most
didn't say
competitive.
that he
And
wouldn't
what you
buy.
said,
He didn't say he wouldn't buy a
mm,
site for 120. I'm not going to say that.
mm,
But in the interview I did with him,
yeah,
because I asked him, I said, "Would you build from scratch? Do you build from scratch at all?" He's like, "No." He says, "Why?
mm,
Why do that when I can just buy that
mm,
and give it to my team and then not
mm,
go through that period of it not
mm.
growing at all?"
Sandbox and all that, yeah.
And he's like, "I would just rather buy, at that
Yeah,
range and then turn it,
yeah,
pour the gas on it." And I mean, it
exactly.
makes sense. It's just
Because I
looking at.
think the other thing is, sorry to cut you,
No, no.
is that basically with that level of site as well, it is a sweet spot what you mentioned because there's a as I said, there's so much opportunity around it
Mhm.
because they're able to just quickly see what's wrong, you know. So the person who built it, it's just like, you know, it's probably like your first little venture or second or whatever, and you've never really built a site to those heights before, so you're kind of like, you know, this is great. And then you think, oh, well, someone really wants to buy this. Like, and then someone like, you know, Matt's team sees it as a complete great opportunity
Mhm.
to make that purchase and are able to make changes very rapidly and very quick and turn the site around. So I think like most definitely for me, if you are going through like, and you've exhausted, you know, trying to improve your content, your backlinking strategy, you know, applying backlinks if that's your thing, and you build links or whatever, and you believe you've done good keyword research and you kind of are reaching the limit of topics you're talking about, I think most definitely it's the time to sell. You know, if you start seeing a decline, then yes, definitely, you know, because then you're out of that growth cycle. If you're on a constant growth month over month, then I would say keep the site running. You know, that's the way I would gauge it personally, because if I'm in that growth cycle, then next month might be another growth cycle. If I see that the site starts to plateau or decline, then that's an indicator for me to get out. You know.
From the buy side, I would say that if somebody's listing their site when it's plateaued or it's on the decline,
Mm,
that's a signal to me not to buy.
mm.
And so
Of
I would
course.
potentially argue though that rather than waiting until it's exhausted, like people
Mm,
should consider getting out while the getting's good, I guess,
mm,
and
mm,
not waiting. And I think people are waiting too. I worry people are
mm.
waiting too long, I guess.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that because I mean it's something that I do think about honestly. I can't give an accurate answer on that because I'm in that scenario myself. But what I would say is that I believe a plateau for me has a 50-50 for a buyer, and the reason why is because if I were to buy something, if I don't see it declining and I see like, you know, month over month is kind of plateaued, it shows consistency. So it shows that it's consistent revenue, yeah, and so I would say it gives you like safety, you know, it's a safety net. So if I saw that and I was able to see flaws, then it's a good buying decision for me. But again, obviously, I'm not experienced in that field. But that's the way I would make a buying decision on anything, any kind of thing that's producing cash flow. I would make a decision, and I would want to see like almost like a plateau because that would justify the reason for them selling it as well. I would question if someone's selling something on the spurt of the growth, you know. But at the same time, it's also good to see. No one doesn't want to see growth, you know. So if you can see that the site's in the growth cycle, then it's great. But I mean, one thing I can say is that when it comes to this kind of decision, there's no wrong decision because, again, like I said with me and my sister in the shop, there's no one on this planet that's ever going to tell you the answer to that because there's so many different variables involved. You know, the time, like the sellers who are on the intent of them, the demand. all of these different things, how much the last site sold for, Amazon's commission changes. There's so many different variables that are going to make a difference. So I think it comes down to, you can look at the numbers and analyze it, as I love to do with things, but ultimately it comes down to a decision that you need to make from an emotional standpoint, I believe. So the emotion needs to come in, and that's what's going to tip you over the edge, to make that, decision of whether you're going to keep it or sell it. But one thing you can't do is regret what you do. You can't do that. So either way, if you choose to hold it, then that's going to teach you next time. I should have got out at that point, and that's what I'll do next time. Just like going and throwing money on the roulette, isn't it? To a certain degree. But no, but you don't want to do that with your business, yeah. But it's like it's either you get out when you're on the up and you're winning, or you don't, because ultimately it comes down to that. But I think what happens is, with this scenario, you've got to make that knee-jerk decision, but then it's going to give you experience. It's going to arm you with that. So next time you come round to that kind of place, you're going to be able to make an educated guess. I think that's what the difference is, because right now it's unknown for us. It's a complete gray area. Me talking on it is limited because I haven't sold a site. So I can't say, oh, well, there's no point of reference for me to gauge this decision, and that's how we do things as humans, is we compare to something else. If it's not hot, it's cold, or if it's not that, it's like the opposite. So I think that's how I kind of look at things, is like, if I just make this decision, like if I say to myself, okay, I'm going to sell this site by the end of the year, but then this could change for me, because if I say I'm going to sell my site at the end of the year and my goal is, $3,000 a month, if I start seeing the site sitting at like $1,000 a month and it just won't budge, like I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire out more content, boof, hit it with content, still sitting there, maybe a blip down, I'm going to start questioning my decision and think, is that the best decision for me to make? So at that point, I'm going to think, rethink my decision. I'm going to think, okay, maybe it's time for me to get out, so that would be my kind of play and how I would handle that situation.
Those are some really good thoughts.
Mm.
Well, we are about close to an hour, and I don't know that I want to take up all the rest of your evening. I've been watching it get darker out your window, because when we started, it was like blinding, and now I can tell it's getting later. Watching the sun go over, it's like, all right, we've been here long enough. But before we wrap up, here's your chance. Like, where can people find out more about you, about your product? Like, just lay it out there. Here's your pitch.
Yeah, okay. For anyone who wants to check out, anything from me, I have a YouTube channel, which is under my full name, Leon Angus.
And we'll put it in the description below.
Brilliant. Thank you. You'll be able to check that out in the description. And then on my community tab, I've actually got access to an early bird waiting list for my ebook that will be specifically on Amazon Associates and monetizing with other alternative products, given the changes that we've recently experienced with Amazon. And it is like for beginners or intermediate level. The reason why it's a good investment is purely because it's got a ton of information, and it's for, a very reasonable price at just $37. You've got nothing to lose, really. So I'd go and check that out. And in any of my videos, you can also opt into my email list, of where you get a second option to actually sign up to be notified about the book. The book comes out on the 4th of May, and I'll be, disclosing that publicly on the channel around that time.
Is there going to be any sort of early bird discount for folks who jump in and get in before you release it?
Yes. So I was in two minds of how I was going to do this and whatever, and how many people. But at the moment, I'm not saying it won't change, but at the moment, for the first 20 people, I'm going to give 30% off, so because of how cheap the thing is in the first place. I mean, you know what it is? When I started out with marketing, sorry, I'll let us wrap up. But when I started out, I used to think like $37, like, whoa, like, these days, I mean, I just bought, Matt sent me an email the other day saying, you can purchase the course for $500 on discount. I was like, yeah, I'm going to grab that. That's great, because when you're making like quite a bit of money online, that's like, I'll spend $1,000 on a course, like no problem, so like, I don't really think about that. Like, I just bought it without really thinking. So like, me selling a $37 product is like, it's nothing, so for the amount of information that you're going to get out of the book. Yeah, it's like I don't even need to pitch, like, honestly, because just anyone who's interested, just go over to my YouTube channel and you'll see the level of information that I'm giving out, and that will help you to make a decision on the book. That's
Awesome.
what I'll say.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I totally appreciate it.
Brilliant. All right then.